Be advised, mature content ahead. This podcast is brought to you ad-free thanks to the Legion of Demons at patreon.com/NOTLP. If you like what you hear, there's much more at patreon.com/NOTLP. Join the Legion. That's patreon.com/NOTLP. And now the show.
How do you do? Just a word of friendly warning. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now is your chance to, well, we warn you.
Hey, welcome to Night of the Living Podcast. I've got four fingers at me right now.
Whoa.
This is Freddy. Amy's here.
Hi.
Dave from OTR Improv is here.
Hello, hello.
Jacob Treviño's back.
What's up?
And Mikey B.
I'm Mikey B.
Later in the show, Mikey B will be reviewing the Axiom for Straight-to-Video Russian Roulette, and we'll all be discussing the Rocky Horror Picture Show, the original 1975 film with Tim Curry, not the made-for-TV remake.
Rocky.
And you were Eddie, huh, Jacob?
Yeah, so I have been lucky enough to be a part of the local shadow group for Rocky Horror Picture Show. I get to play Eddie, which involves, one, the most amount of dancing, and two, least amount of screen time. It is.
How do you pack so much?
I know. It is. It took probably about 3 weeks of rehearsal.
Oh my goodness.
To get all the dance stuff in, because the Denton Affair, which is the local group that does the Rocky Horror Picture Show at the Esquire Theater, every other Saturday night at midnight. They're pros. Like, they know this movie inside and out, and so I had to know this movie in an intimate way as well. Like, as intimately as I could know Meatloaf. I know the Meatloaf in Rocky Horror more than I know my mom's meatloaf. Like, it is. But it is, I think, don't dream it, just be it. And that's how I live my life.
That is it's such a beautiful sentiment, but we'll get to it.
It makes me wonder if you went deep cuts with the Meatloaf tracks just to really get in his head and like listen to Life is a Lemon and I Want My Money Back.
No, I just listened to I Would Do Anything for Love.
Oh, okay.
Just trying to figure out what he wouldn't do. Like, the one thing that he wouldn't do.
Is it hidden in the lyrics?
It's hidden in the lyrics, yeah.
What is it?
Well, you
right,
have
I'll
to
do
be
the
a
work.
scholar like me. Yeah,
Butt stuff, isn't it?
Yeah,
No,
it's really butt stuff.
no, it's surprisingly not.
Huh, I always thought it was. If you don't know who Jacob is, he's been on the show many times, but owner-operator of some of the coolest spots in Cincinnati, most recently the Lonely Pine Steakhouse.
Our Back to the Future themed steakhouse. It's not really Back to the Future. It started out as one of those jokes where we wanted to do this really 1960s style steakhouse, 1950s style steakhouse. And we kept throwing around names, and the first few names were terrible, like super, super, really bad. I'm glad we didn't go with those names. I think the first name we kept throwing around was Prairie Fire. Yeah, exactly.
I'd laugh to you.
Yeah, just not good.
To your
And
face.
then because we're trying to, the company I was called Guerrilla Cinema. We started as this cinema pop-up experience where we would show a movie and we would theme cocktails and food to whatever movie we were showing. And then that grew into our first bar, the Overlook Lodge. Our second bar, which is a Quentin Tarantino-inspired speakeasy, the Video Archive. Our Lost in Translation-inspired karaoke bar called Tokyo Kitty. And so we kept saying, like, with this fourth one, like, we're going to get away from the movies. Like, we're going to start, like, a whole new trilogy. We were going to start, like, a whole new trilogy of bars that had nothing to do, like, with movies, but had, like, really unique experiences. And then we got to the name and we're like, oh no, the mall name from Back to the Future sounds great.
In an alternate reality, it was the Twin Pines Steakhouse, right?
Exactly. And there are some Easter eggs. When you go into the steakhouse, it is not in your face Back to the Future. If you're coming for like a Back to the Future, experience, we're probably not it. There's like a few nods on the menu. We have the Emmett Brown old fashioned.
I didn't even. I'm not a Back to the Future aficionado. Like the gentleman in the room. Sorry.
Yeah, and it definitely has this, Palm Springs kind of California vibe to
It also
the
has a
restaurant.
little bit of a Twin Peaks vibe to it.
It does have a little bit of a Twin Peaks vibe to it as well.
I've heard people describe. I've heard people say they believe it is a Twin Peaks themed place.
And I think that's it. I think I'm just like letting people run with whatever they want,
right?
Project
Because
whatever
that's what they
want.
expect out of you.
I think so. And then we have our newest bar, La Ofrenda, which is going to be a tequila, sotol, and mezcal bar.
Can't
that
wait.
is
So exciting.
Yeah, that's going to be opening here this fall.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be down at Findlay Market. That one's really cool because of all the projection mapping that we're doing for the inside of the bar. I think I'm the only bar owner that actually went to like an animation company that was like, I want you to animate the inside of this bar. I want you to bring it to life. So we're doing that.
That's fantastic.
Awesome.
Don't dream it, be it.
Don't dream it.
You live
be it.
that, man.
Yeah, you do.
Jacob just went in with smoking a cigar and a big
Yeah.
slammed it on the desk. Make it happen.
And that you're
Love
hearing
it.
the voice of Dave Powell. Now, if you're wondering, like, this is Dave's first show with us. He's OTR Improv. Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, give us your origin story, Dave.
Yeah.
Your secret origin story. Like, who first said you're funny?
Oh, yeah.
No one.
Nobody. It just happened. Thank you, Jacob. You're precious. Yes, I'm Dave Powell. I am the artistic director of OTR Improv. My origin story is I was actually up in Detroit at an art school, the College for Creative Studies, and Second City opened up there when I was in college in the late 90s. And I had that moment of like, I knew Bill Murray, I knew Dan Aykroyd, I knew John Candy, I knew like Gilda Radner, all the people that had gone through Second City, and it was like, I have to start doing classes there. And then by the end of my time at art school, I was like, I would rather do comedy than painting. Which is funny because my parents were like, but this painting future was so secure and risk-free.
We're like, no, don't abandon the painting.
Yeah. I rebelled at 22 by going into improv.
Oh my gosh.
And I actually moved back to Cincinnati for a while, joined an improv group here by mistake. There was an ad in the back of City Beat.
Ah, yes.
And, old City Beat right underneath the bartending school. And they had supposed to have pulled it, and they didn't. And I called, and they let me come in and audition, and I actually got in. And I performed here for years. Then I went back up to Detroit to actually go through Second City. I was actually living here for 16 weeks before I actually moved up there. So every weekend I was driving up there to take those classes.
That's a haul.
I know 75 really darn well up there.
But at
Yeah.
least on the drive, would you think of like... So for me, improv is like kind of one of those things where I know that it's supposed to be like, just go with it. And I think we've all seen Don't Think Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But but are you thinking of like characters or things like that you can put in your back pocket on those drives? Like, because you got just
Are
nothing
you
but
cheating
time.
is
Like,
what
are you
you're
cheating? I think I think everybody like has to have some sort of back pocket character or something like that. Or no.
All the time I'm on stage like, you're not doing what we talked about before the show. What's going on? Actually, for those drives, usually what happens with a lot of improvisers is we think of things that are going on in our heads, like relationships-wise and stuff. So I think like character choices that can be very malleable, I think is really good. And then if we play short form improv, if you're familiar with like Whose Lines Is It Anyway, usually there's like rhyming games and guessing games and stuff. I will practice rhyming games or like protect the line games where you make jokes up on the spot all of the time in the car by myself.
That seems like a good use of time.
Yeah.
Keeps your brain sharp.
Yeah.
My short-term memory is completely blown.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could handle that even.
We always joke that Freddy's a no but and he doesn't understand yes and. He's very bad at that. He's like Michael Scott on The Office. He wants to do what he wants to do.
I whisper I have a gun to everybody.
Always. Well, that's how you get the stakes higher.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then
It's so
there's-
hard. When it's done well, it's like magic.
Yes.
Improv.
Yeah, when we saw UCB.
Yeah,
in,
few
Chelsea,
years back.
right?
Yeah.
And they
it blew my mind. I didn't understand. And then I've seen OTR Improv a few times, and I'm just like, I don't even.
Yeah,
how do you? Huh? I can't go that fast.
You directly quoted me on stage.
Yeah.
How do you?
And you just sit down and go, I don't know. But anyway.
I love that we're discussing two things that make Andy incredibly uncomfortable.
Yes. What are those
Improv
things?
and the Rocky Horror Picture
Oh,
Show.
yeah.
And he's not here to talk about it. And me.
And Milo.
I feel
The
like
food.
I would love to have heard like him squirming audibly in the microphone.
Yeah.
Because like he went to one of the midnight screenings of Rocky Horror that they did at the Esquire. This is a long time ago. It's when the final book. It was actually maybe even the day the final book came out.
It was definitely within the first couple of days of the final book of the Harry Potter series coming out.
Yeah.
That's a good marker of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we went.
What year was it? I don't know. The last Harry Potter book that just came out.
Look it up.
You know.
And so somebody spoils the book in the audience.
Whoa.
And so Andy
and they
has,
started a riot.
Yeah, on purpose, just comes
Yeah.
in and yells
Dobby dies.
everyone who dies.
So Andy has blamed Rocky Horror for this since then. This is probably 10 years.
He has
at least.
trauma related to it.
Yeah.
And he hates because of that. He loved the movie beforehand, but now because some asshole there.
He says he's coming around on it again.
Yeah, okay.
I've done that before for pop culture stuff, mostly because I have to ingest so much pop culture. Like this past week, the last Walking Dead came out. I don't know if you guys know that the
last comic.
Yeah, the
Yes.
comic ran to its end.
Oh, it's done.
And somebody brought it into the bar. And I was like, can I see that? And I just flipped to the last like 5 pages.
Oh, did you really?
Pages.
Out of time.
Did you read it then?
I just
read it out loud to
I
everybody.
didn't read it out loud to everybody, but I wanted to get the gist of how it
Yeah.
ends. Like I think
Yeah.
we're all. And so, anyways, you'll never believe how it ends. I'll start with like no, I would never
You
do
need
that.
a drink called the spoiler. And you just
Spoiler.
like slide something in there.
At the bottom of the glass.
Darth Vader
just
is
shit.
his father.
This past week we had a lunch, and Jacob has seen Spider-Man: Far From Home, and I have not
Oh, yeah.
yet. And you could tell he was like, like I could tell how much you wanted to tell me a few.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet
happens.
either.
It's very good. I loved it. It's,
Yeah.
I thought
nothing
the
but good
first one was
things.
fantastic.
They're going very John Hughes with the Spider-Man world, and I really like that take on it. It's
Good.
more funny than action. Like it feels like a teen comedy. Like that just happens to have Spider-Man in it.
I think that's the key to keeping the superhero genre alive and viable is that each one has to have its own style.
Yeah,
Because otherwise, we're just going back and seeing the same thing over and over again. It's going to get boring. But Marvel has a way of just making it work.
they do.
They're the smartest.
It's magical.
Yeah.
And then I'll give some shout out to DC. I just started watching Supergirl, the TV series,
yeah.
which I am really, really late to. It's on season 5 or 6 now. It is so good.
Yeah, man, I love all the DC crossover TV shows.
Yeah.
I kind of gave up on the Flash, mostly because like every week they're like, okay, how do we make him run fast?
They do paint themselves into a corner.
Yeah,
with
like,
that
yeah,
character.
with that particular hero, I think
Yeah.
Supergirl is a little bit more nuanced.
Yeah.
I think you can have a little bit more fun with her. I've loved everything that I've watched from that.
Yeah, they've really brought the humanity back to the DC universe that was kind of missing with the cinematic stuff. I think, because all the characters are really likable and relatable and fun. And when I can't believe I actually like the casting of Superman on that show, which it's a hard role to cast, but he's really charming. It's the guy from Teen Wolf. Plays Superman.
Michael J. Fox.
No, Jason Bateman. Teen Wolf 2. I misspoke.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Teen Wolf 2.
Adorable.
Yeah, so fun.
Did we all enjoy America's birthday this week?
Yeah.
Happy birthday, America!
Yeah.
Did we all watch the parade? The Washington, D.C. military? Fuck no! But thank God that we made sure the British couldn't get our airports.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah, I hope that meme never dies. I hope it goes on for forever, and we talk about all of the founding fathers fighting at the airport.
Yes.
There was somebody said they should do an episode of Drunk History where it's just a sober person telling a story, and it's our president.
It's adorable. Our president is
it.
adorable, and I think it's great. But we did our annual pilgrimage to the North Side Parade, which, if you're not familiar with,
there as well.
You were there?
Yeah.
Is the world's quirkiest little parade, and I love it.
It's great.
It's always hot as balls.
So I figured out the hack of the
Okay.
North Side Parade.
All right.
I actually went into Chameleon and just sat in the window right there, and you watch it air conditioned.
You're slick.
It is. I just sit and I just marinate my own juices for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like an
As our
idiot.
forefathers did.
I watched it from the safety of my home on other people's Instagram feeds.
Nice. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Same.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we left Freddy at home.
I stayed home. I just was not ready to go sit in the heat, and I just cleaned the house instead.
It's just a weirdo little parade, and it's just beautiful.
To me, it reminds me of Mardi Gras. Like,
Yeah.
all the floats are very irreverent. Nothing is overly patriotic in any way.
Yeah.
It's just a very, very weird parade.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
It was interesting because this is the first year I went to Pride, and that was a couple weeks ago, and I saw a few recycled floats. I see your rainbow banner that you
Oh.
inexplicably have on America's birthday. I see you spent money on that, and you're like, we're using it twice.
Hey, man,
Anyway.
you can be prideful year round.
That's
right.
true. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Yes. I say we need to have like a full blown Pride year.
Yeah.
Like, just not a whole month, just 2020, the year of Pride.
Year of Pride.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yes. And so every single day is brunch and parades and for a whole
Mimosas.
year. I mean, we got to make up for like 50 years. I feel like this was
Yeah.
the first year that it was like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
this is huge.
You're
Like,
gay
yes.
people.
No, I don't think it was
kidding, I'm
that.
kidding.
Yes.
Could you imagine the amount of
big, though.
hardcore conservative heads that would explode if you had you had Pride Year, then you had Black History Year, and then you had
I say let's do it.
like they passed the ERA.
Why don't we get our own year? What's going on?
Intersectional feminism year.
Yeah. I'm into it.
Yeah.
I'm about it. I think it needs to be like shoved down our throats like Christmas too. Like,
Okay.
just all
Yeah.
the way. Like,
Why not?
Yeah.
yeah, just
Become part of the mainstream culture a little bit.
yeah. I think that's kind of the deal.
getting
is I think it is. I think us as a company, we are we've done several different fundraisers for LGBTQ homeless population.
Big problem.
Yeah, huge problem. And so it's kind of one of those things where, to me, it's great, but I would love more of a normalization, that it's just like,
Yeah.
hey, these are the things that we do, and hopefully, I know why there's a Pride Parade, and I know why it is important to celebrate it. But my hope is 50 years from now, that we're like,
You don't need
Yeah.
it.
we
Right,
yeah.
Yeah. Our good friend and contributor Fozzie, who he started a foundation called Poise, POYS, which is about representation in media, and it's just a really cool thing. But I thought I should definitely mention that in this context. You should check that out. Support Poise. I think he has a Facebook page and group that you can look at, I want to say. If not, just contact Fozzie on Facebook.
Type in Fozzie Bear.
Just type in Fozzie Bear.
Yeah.
But,
Find him on the Twitters.
yeah, he's been doing some fun stuff.
No, it is great because you do see that normalization. Like I was out last night at the bars, and all of the bars have like their Pride stuff up still, and it's that, the backlash of like, years past when, let's go to Target now because we can get all of our Pride stuff 75% off, but there's more of a carryover all around where people are just going in, and it's great. And people, I know there was a little bit of backlash on the Taylor Swift video, but I think it's fantastic because how many little kids that are growing up and are like, oh my God, my world is over because I think I might be this, and are seeing Taylor Swift, come out with a video where she's just celebrating, be whatever the hell you want to be. I just think that's a great message, and certainly a message that would be awesome that we kept year round.
I'm just happy that her and Katy Perry patched things up.
That was the moment right there. I literally clenched my shirt,
With two
started pounding
straight
my
girls
chest.
hugged. We all rejoiced.
Yeah, those French fries hugged that hamburger. I knew they were throwing their stuff down for love.
It reminds me of those old NFL commercials where the two rival team guys will hug each other, because they're both like, we both have children. And we both have children that like football, I guess. Give me a hug.
That's the only thing. It's the only thing that humanizes us, children.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd be tearing each other to pieces and dumping buckets of beer on each other's heads.
Here's my sweaty jersey.
It's beautiful, you guys.
Yeah.
I think
It is
we
beautiful.
solved it.
We did.
It's all fixed.
We did.
Love it. Love it so much.
Well, speaking of sexuality, let's talk about Dave and this show that we're
Some sexy going on.
So we are doing this show at the Overlook that we came here to plug. I'm going to be right up front with you guys.
He does not give a
You had me at sexuality.
We didn't come here just to talk about, the Taylor Swift video and sweaty men hugging and whatever else we were going to talk about. We came here to it's a commercial. So strap in.
We've got
It's a
corporate.
paid advertisement.
We're getting paid?
Here comes commercialism, America.
It's like an infomercial. But no, hopefully it's something that like our worlds bisect sometimes.
Absolutely.
The horror world and the bar world and everything like that. And we thought this was a perfect time. And speaking of sexuality, so we have been like throwing this idea around for about 3 years. And it was like, how do we bring this to life? How do we make it happen? The original idea was, one of my sexual awakenings was Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Absolutely.
I think I
Raise
was.
your hand if.
Even Mike.
I'll raise my hand. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
titties.
Yeah, so 10 years old. And then I think as you get older, you find the nuanced and the comedy and everything like that. It moves beyond sexuality. And I think that's why we brought in Dave for his nuanced sexuality and comedy.
There's levels.
There's levels.
There's levels.
It's like an onion.
But I think for us, as we see, there's some great horror hosts around the country, and they all do local and great stuff. I think for us, it was trying to figure out how do we do something new and innovative, so it's not like just a straight ripoff of things that have come before, and how do you create almost an interactive game around this, and how do you create an interactive show? And I think when we think of interactivity, you think immediately improv, because it's back to everything that Dave does and promotes is about getting the audience involved a lot. So we created this show, us and the people at Gorilla Cinema, called Horror Movie Survival Camp. And it is, so we were like, we want to show a movie, but we want it to be more interactive than that. And so we kept thinking, okay, well, it needs a host. It needs this interactive element. And I reached out to Dave to say, hey, do you know anyone that could host this show? Like anyone in your circle that might be interested in kind of helping us build this program? And he was like, I would.
That was easy.
Yeah. Yes. No, the moment you texted me, I was like, all right, do I be selfish? Yes, I be selfish. The idea is we're going to be showing movies. Our first one is on July 17th, and that is Sleepaway Camp. And what we're going to be doing is be taking breaks, and there's going to be drink specials and stuff like that. But during the breaks, it's going to be each person there has a chance to be a part of a raffle of surviving the night. And we're going to play with a lot of the tropes of what horror films happen in them and how they possibly die, as well as during the breaks playing improv games with them as well. And the whole idea is it's better to watch horror movies when there's a room full of people and interacting with it and having a good time. Because I still remember I was working at Kings Island at Fear Fest years ago, and I was
The last Harry Potter book was
yes.
When was that?
Actually, I think it was the third was when that one was out. But
It was the year of the Goblet of Fire.
I grew up as a kid very scared of horror movies, and I remember my mom telling me I wasn't allowed to watch them. And then hanging out with the people that worked at the Fear Fest, I realized, you're the ones that love horror movies. You're like the guys from summer camp, the two guys that love horror movies. And then I realized, you're rooting for the bad guy. You're rooting for the murders. And the next time I started watching horror films, I was like, this is amazing. This is how you watch these movies. And then you're all of a sudden takes all the anxiety away and you just have a blast. So like, that's the idea of watching these movies as well. Is like, come out to a bar, have a few drinks, and also let's just have a great time while watching people get decapitated.
Yeah.
I think for us, it was also like, how do we create just a real interactive element? So along with the improv games, it is stuff that every time somebody gets killed on screen, the beer prices go down a quarter.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So by, and that price stays until the end credits like roll.
You're going to have people
Like, basically-
recommending like real high body count movies.
Well, and I think that's it. I think it makes us be a little bit more clever on like what we pick.
Yeah.
Because if you pick like Freddy versus Jason,
Yeah.
like oh man, like
Free
high,
beer.
free beer. Oh yes, exactly.
Here's your beer and your 50 cents.
And I think for us too, it was kind of one of those things where I'm a huge fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000,
absolutely.
and I think there are a number of great troops like that around the country. Like one out of Austin is like Mr. Pancake Theater. I'm a huge fan of those guys. They've been doing it since like the early 1990s, I believe, like right as Mystery Science Theater. They do it like Alamo Draft House. So again, it was like one of those things where like I didn't want to do that because people have done that before. And I think that's been the great thing about collaborating with Dave is we'll come up with an idea and like ping pong back off of each other and try to make it something new and something original. So I hope that like when you come out to the show, that's going to be a weekly thing, that you're going to see something new and something original in terms of like comedy and horror.
I love this.
Yeah, that you haven't seen before. And for us, like, it's what can I do on my end? Like, I was like, okay, so it's a camp. So we're going to recreate all the camp elements in the bar. So all the drinks are going to come in tin mugs that you would get like over the campfire. We're turning the lights down low. We've got all these gas lanterns that we're going to put on, and
You got a bunch of mosquitoes inside.
yeah, exactly.
I love it. Perfect.
Release a whole
I love it.
thing.
You just have to have some of the staff dressed up as mosquitoes.
Gonna turn the air conditioning off. It's gonna be really hot.
free s'mores. So you come
that's
out,
awesome.
Yeah, because we really want to set the element. I think that was the biggest thing for this show. Is I know from an improv standpoint, it's a little hard to create atmosphere because you don't know what the atmosphere is going to be, and so for us it is okay. How do you take those improv elements but also create some setting behind it? And I think we all can identify with the camp motif, and like so I think we're gonna have a lot of fun like playing around with those tropes and things like that.
And also, so many horror films happen around camps as well. And we're not going to just show movies that happen around camps, but the idea of like everyone knows like, all right, there's something inherently funny and scary about going into the woods, and like we tell ghost stories and we have pranks that we pull on each other when we're out in the woods. So the idea of like, let's bring that to a nearby bar and have fun while watching a movie as well.
Yeah.
This is the perfect evening, in my
love it.
opinion.
Yeah,
from the sounds of
that
it.
sounds awesome.
So,
Yeah,
well done.
8 p.m. to 10 p.m. every Wednesday.
Yep,
Yeah.
starting July 17th.
Yep, until we die.
At the Overlook Lodge,
I love it.
which is my favorite bar.
Are you going to have a take on bug juice?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think for us the menu was a little bit more. How do we do? We're experimenting with tiki. To kind of do like some camp classic like tiki drinks and things like
Fantastic.
that, and make again the drinks as elemental as the comedy and the backdrop and everything like that. For us it was we really wanted to transport you out of the bar as well, so we built like kind of a set behind Dave and them so that they can kind of play off of. I think for us it was if we were going to do this show because we had been kicking it around for so long. We wanted to do the show right. We didn't want you just to come in because and this is not a dig on like anybody else, but I think for us it was we wanted to create something that was kind of like new and could be iconic as any other show that has been long running here in Cincinnati. I think that was our big thing. Is this was our first crack at doing something original production. for guerrilla cinema, and having Dave and all of his wealth of knowledge and comedy and sexiness and
There's layers to it. There's layers.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
and to be completely honest, the reason I said yes immediately is I love what Jacob does. I still remember how him and I met. I was frequenting a bar that he was bartending at, and him talking.
the second Harry Potter book was
The second Harry Potter, yes. And I still remember him being like, hey, I'm thinking about making my own bar and basing it off of the Overlook in The Shining. And I remember my first instinct was, I want you to make that so I can drink there.
Yeah.
And then I also just love the sense of magic that he brings to absolutely everything he does. So it was like, yes, let's make something together. I would love to do this show.
Yeah.
You're like the Walt Disney of Cincinnati.
Somebody once compared me very highly, and it was almost like it shook me too
It's
much.
too much.
They're like, you're like Mr. Rogers meets Willy Wonka, and I was like, don't, no, like, no,
You've
like,
killed children.
He was taking his cardigan as I said that. No.
lacing up my shoes.
It's okay to make that comparison. It's fine.
I mean,
You're plussing it.
we love what we do. We have an amazingly talented team that are super, super creative. So it is not just me kind of going at this. We wake up every day and we try to find really cool things that we can do. Aside from the horror movie Survival Camp, which is every Wednesday at 8 p.m. at the Overlook Lodge, we're working with Sony Pictures on the new release of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Of course.
For Video Archive. They have graciously allowed us to do a private screening before anyone else.
Holy shit.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we are doing what we are calling the Summer of Love Party at Video Archive on July 16th, which is a Thursday night, where we can give away passes to come see this screening. The screen will actually be the following Wednesday. But you have to come on the 16th to like get your passes, mostly so we can gauge like how many people want passes and things like that. And because we want to buy popcorn and soda, so we gotta, put the budgets together. But yeah, we want to recreate the world of from what we've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That late 1960s vibe. So the Video Archive is getting this full makeover for the release of the Tarantino film, and we're super excited about that as well, because it's just another chance to do something that's immersive and interesting. And also, it's the first time that Video Archive has been open and Quentin released a movie. Hateful Eight was out a few months before we opened Video Archive. So we've never done, and again, Sony was so great, like reached out to them and said, hey, we want to do this thing. Could we do a private screening? Yeah. And luckily Quentin's like a fan of the bar and was just like, absolutely. So,
awesome.
Yeah, so we're really excited to like have that attached to the Video Archive, and we just have all stuff going on. So just follow our bars, and we always have something interesting happening.
Which is great. It makes Cincinnati just a better place, just a little more joy for Cincinnati, something always to do. I know it's becoming a destination for friends that live out of state for me, because they want, I got to check out this new. I'm like, yes, you absolutely do, because it's just something that makes life a little bit more joyful.
You've joined the ranks of Jungle Gyms.
Yeah.
I met him.
Did you really?
I met him at the like worst place you can meet somebody.
Airport bathroom.
No.
Did we both say
a
airport?
golf course?
Oh.
We were like doing like a charity event, and I didn't know who he was when he came up.
Yeah.
But he came up and was eating our steak and was talking about how great it was and saying it reminded him of this place in Key West, and then he talked very liberally about a lot of really crazy things. Like I didn't know who he was. Like, and he was just, being way more intimate with me than I would ever be with a stranger.
Yeah.
And again, very, very pleasant. Like, but just, whoa, man. Like,
Yeah.
I just met you. And he didn't even introduce him. He introduced himself at the end of his crazy story. Just like, I was like, well, I'm Jacob. If you ever want to come down to the restaurant, like, hit me up. He's like, oh, and he introduced himself as Jungle. Like, he's like, oh, I'm Jungle. I was like, Jim? Like, it could be any other?
Yeah.
I'm Jungle.
That's awesome.
I was
Jungle.
hoping it might be like 007-esque.
Yeah.
My name's Jim. Jungle Jim.
Yeah.
Jungle.
I was like, he's going to be like, Jungle? I was like, Jim? He's like, no, Tim.
Jungle
Jim.
Jim is my brother.
That bastard.
In my mind, like you and Jungle Jim, this had to have been like a miniature golf course, right?
It was not, no.
Lots of like Ferris wheels and
A
ramps.
charity event at a miniature golf course.
I would go to that.
I would
yes,
too.
I wish it was. And
Yeah.
now you've got me like wanting to do
Can you do a miniature
Like,
golf course, please?
A celebrity
a
charity
celebrity
tournament.
miniature golf course tournament.
that's brilliant.
Can we do stuff? So Dave has an awesome festival that they put on here, the IF Festival.
Improv Festival, Cincinnati, if
Improv
Cincy.
Festival, yes. If Cincy.
Yep.
So that's coming up, and he's got some amazing people coming to that. If you want to kind of plug that as well. I mean, we've got an audience. They're captive.
That's right.
Commercialism. Happy 4th of July.
I love capitalism.
Yeah, at the end of September, last week in September, we have our 6th annual Improv Festival of Cincinnati at Memorial Hall. Tickets are on sale right now, as well as we have just released our Indiegogo campaign to raise funds for it as well. You can go to our website, ifcincy, that's ifcincy.com, to make a donation right there. And actually, when Jacob was just talking about Destination Place, so for the past 4 years, the only one she has not been, and was our first one, is Amber Nash from Archer comes every year to our festival. And last year, one of the places that we actually took her was the Video Archive to have a drink, and she absolutely loved it. And you actually find pictures of her there on your Facebook page.
Oh yeah, because I have like a big heart crush on Amber Nash. Like, no, she's incredibly funny and amazingly interesting, and I was honored to have her in the bar drinking behind our video store counter. She was so pleasant and like took all the pictures that we wanted, and just let us plug that we have celebrities come to our bars.
I feel like you should have a, you know how at the Brown Derby they have like the caricatures of the celebrities that have eaten there? Like
We've been like very fortunate. Like, I mean, they're filming so much in Cincinnati now that it's been really great to like run into the celebrities that they brought here to film their projects. We have Mark Ruffalo in Tokyo Kitty. Super amazing guy. Like, I was like out of town, and it sucked because I would have immediately run over. But I think at this point we've had like 3 of the Avengers at our bars, so we're on our way. I'm creating a bingo sheet.
Yeah, they'll have more time now though, so they might be able to come through just leisurely.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Now the end game has happened.
Yeah, I just saw the trailer for Point Blank, which is Anthony Mackie and Frank Grillo. Is coming out on Netflix soon, or might already be out. I don't understand how that
Directed
works.
by the amazing Joe Lynch.
Yeah.
If you've never seen Cinerama, watch Cinerama.
Do it right now. Stop.
Do it. Yeah. Hit pause. Watch Cinerama. Come
Welcome back. What'd you think? Was Jacob right?
Shout out your radio what you thought. At the top of your lungs.
We heard it all. We heard it all.
We got it. Nice.
All right. Well, are we done with the corporate part of the show? Just kidding.
Are we ever
You're the
done
furthest
with the
from
corporate part?
corporate, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But capitalism isn't always bad.
If you're selling whimsy, I'm in.
Yeah.
If you're in the Midwest, come
That's
visit.
could I be like punk rock Walt Disney?
Yeah.
Oh,
Done and
you
done.
just gave me an idea for a really wicked drawing. Liberty Spikes, little mustache.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's up, Walt? All right. Well, we'll be right back then.
Hello, boys and girls. It's time for Straight-to-Video Russian Roulette.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Mikey,
Yeah.
what the fuck did you watch?
I watched a movie called The Axiom, and Yeah.
It's on Amazon Prime, right?
It's on Amazon Prime. It's not to be confused with all of the other Axiom movies, 'cause there's a lot.
Or Axios, the news show on HBO.
Right. Don't do that.
That's a great program, though.
Well, this is not.
I didn't think it was.
Yeah, no. Here's the thing. It's the Axiom.
You're allowed to not like it.
I'm allowed to not like it.
I thought that's the point of this whole roulette thing, that most, 90% of them are going to be hot garbage.
Yes.
Yeah, it does feel that way.
We dare you to like it.
Yeah.
Well, here's my problem with this film. Is it's actually shot well.
Okay.
The actors are really good in it.
Okay.
The story is the problem. It makes zero sense. So it's tale as old as time. A bunch of kids, a group of 4 or 5 kids, go into the woods because somebody's sister is missing, and all she knows is she's in this campground. I could not follow a logical plot line to this movie, though, because
that is not what I had in mind when you say the word axiom.
Really?
Yeah.
And here's the deal. I am no scholar. I don't know what axiom means.
Okay.
Me either.
Does anybody?
I'm going to look at the real definition while you're talking.
But to me, I'm gonna say I like axis, so a point.
Yeah.
And so to me, I'm like, this is about space.
I know what
Just based off the name. I'm judging this book by its cover.
yes.
Yes. And
Oh my!
You're right. You're
this
correct.
is not the definition I expected.
Okay.
Oh, let's hear it.
Yeah.
An axiom or postulate is a statement that is taken to be true to serve a premise or starting point for further reasoning and arguments.
Oh.
That doesn't do me much
Does
good.
that-
Changes the movie completely.
Yeah.
Does that track with what
now
you watch?
it makes sense.
I don't.
Yes.
There's a
it
monster.
Does. There is a monster. So
there's your
basic-
premise.
Here's the premise.
Oh, it's like Scooby Doo. Oh shit! I figured it out. Well, good. Now we don't have to watch that movie. They gave away if you would pick up a dictionary, you could figure out the twist.
Figure it out.
It kind of looks like, were they going for like a Stranger Things kind of
Yes.
thing with it? Yeah.
Yes. So basically, this girl tricks her friends into coming along to find her sister. And she knows that it's dangerous, but she doesn't tell them how it's dangerous. And then they run into town and they meet this guy who's supposed to kind of creep them out. So again, we're staying right on line with all the tropes.
As your cabin in the woods trope.
Yeah.
goes.
Yes.
The warning guy.
He is the warning guy.
Hey kids,
Yeah.
pollen count's awful high today.
Yes.
Might want to stay out of them woods.
Might want to stay out of them woods.
Do you got your SPF?
Yeah.
At least 30.
Cancer's killed more people than Jason.
So true. How profound. So they give them this guy gets the girl, the main character, like these vials of like red stuff. Really doesn't explain what that is other than that.
Sunscreen, we've established.
Yes, it's sunscreen, SPF Jason. A map, and says basically you're going into an area you didn't think you were going into. So here's the spot, go into this area. So you're starting to get like this idea that she's going into a portal. This is where the movie totally breaks down though. So they go to this site, this campsite area, and basically someone will walk a little too far and then turn around to talk to everybody else, and everybody else can't see that person.
Oh, okay.
Or that person can't see them. They can see that person.
I remember this Next Generation episode.
Yes.
Are you a
Let me
Star
get-
Trek
There was
nerd?
it, yeah.
Me too. I'm new.
So
Great.
She's already got toys.
I just want to say Amy slapped him so hard.
Blam.
on the ass, no less.
Yeah. I was like, Star Trek? Come over here. Bend over.
Layers
Smackety,
to the
smackety.
sexuality.
There are lots of layers. It's okay because she's a girl. She's allowed. So like the person like walks away or walks a little too far, and you don't really know what it is, and then they're like, "Where is everybody?" But everybody can still see that person, and they're having these like conversations with. I don't know. It's like you can't see them, but you can see them because you just walked through a wall. And then they think they're hallucinating, but they don't want to tell each other because they're seeing these monsters, which actually are really well done monsters. I liked the monsters.
Amy likes her monsters well done too.
Yeah, well done monsters.
That's true.
But Yeah, so I mean, this mild spoiler. I don't know if you could figure out.
If
The
you don't
spoiler
like it,
is,
you're allowed to spoil it.
The spoil, yes, I'm going to spoil it. The spoiler is if you could figure out this movie, let me know because I couldn't figure out the movie. I was trying to track with it because it does do a lot of things really well. It looks good. It's well acted. I liked the characters. They just make so many stupid decisions, which again, another horror trope. But they're literally saying. Like, they had this opportunity to scream thing because they're saying, like, oh, they quote in the movie, let's be the Scooby-Doo gang and we should all split up. No. And then, like, the one guy was like, well, does that make me Fred? Well, isn't Fred kind of a douche? And the girl's like, oh, well, he wears a hot what does they call
Ascot.
it? Ascot. And he's like,
Wears a
okay,
hot ass.
let's have sex. Well, you're looking for this girl's sister in the middle of the woods.
Hey, sometimes you gotta take a sex break.
They need
Like,
a sex
searching
break.
for lost people is hard.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's why the people in
Yes.
Equus are always fucking each other.
Everyone's like adrenaline is up, and you're just
Yeah.
like, you know what? We got some time. Like,
But we're not even talking. We're literally talking. We're walking.
silly.
We haven't set up our tents. We don't even know where we're going. We're just like, yeah. You know what? Let's break up like the Scooby-Doo gang. Let's have sex, and then let's start hallucinating because
I
that's
didn't
basically what.
feel
they're
like
doing.
Fred was a douche. I just think Fred had to be the leader, and
Yeah.
he has to get things done.
I don't think Fred was the leader.
No.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
Velma is definitely the leader.
She was the brains for sure.
She was.
I think
She
Fred
was
was
the
the
girl.
face.
I think Fred was the muscle. Like
Yeah,
he's
he might be.
Well, and he was the charisma.
I didn't find him to be a
that-
bad
And,
person.
yeah, Daphne is the honeypot,
She is, and the girl actually says that because
and
she's like, that
Shaggy
makes me
is the
Daphne.
male honeypot.
Don't you feel like Daphne is just around because she's somebody's girlfriend, but we don't know whose?
Fred's.
No.
It's just the tension. The
Right.
tension.
Yeah.
between her and Scooby.
They could have
That's
been
what I always thought.
siblings.
She's
for
like
really
Uncle
know.
Scoob.
She's not really into solving mysteries. She's just putting on a show because she wants to fit in.
She's like,
She
I'm not
doesn't-
like the other girls.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she's just trying to figure herself out still.
I'm gonna throw this a wrench. They are all brother and sister.
Oh,
The Scooby-Doo gang or this gang?
Both?
Scooby-Doo.
Well, there is
Even Scooby?
yes.
that makes that
no,
Scooby-Doo
that's-
porn parody play out way differently.
Like that's we never really established their friendship other than their I assume friends.
Do they have parents? Like, you never know.
You never know. We never hear about their parents.
Yeah.
It's easy.
what
Shaggy's their dealer.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's the deal. It's like, do they get paid for solving these mysteries? Like, who's fronting the gas money on this? Like these
I think they do
adventures?
get paid.
They do get paid.
The scary old man. No.
None of these adventures are really happening. They're all just they're all in Shaggy's van and they're blasted out of their minds.
Back to Axiom again.
Well-
your sister's friend is lost.
Yeah, but hold on.
You're like, we should go find her. You're like, isn't this a job for the cops?
That was exactly what I was thinking. Does anyone else know this woman is missing?
Yeah, is there... who cares? It doesn't
no,
matter.
and that's where nothing makes sense. It's
Right.
like this girl is missing. The sister, it's her sister. She cares. Her sister's, I think. So there's a couple, and then one of them is brother and sister. They end up having sex. Well, that was weird. But yeah. So anyhow, yeah. So they're all
okay.
kind of connected, and there's this one goofy British guy who's just there for comedy relief, basically. So, the monsters start appearing through this because the red vials of whatever you're supposed to drink, because that keeps you from hallucinating whatever the monsters are, which again, I thought, okay, that's kind of a cool premise, except that like the girl doesn't tell anybody anything. She's like, all my friends and family go out and look for my sister without knowing that she has these vials, which that again doesn't make any sense. So they're going out and they're all hallucinating these different things, these monsters. I think they call them like the fingers or whatever.
All right.
Yeah, they are kind of creepy looking. So the monsters are good, but they show up and then they get into their heads, and then they all of a sudden are hallucinating and want to kill each other. So there's a lot of stabbing each other in the stomachs with knives for whatever reason. So like one of the guys is hallucinating, and his sister is trying to save him, and then he ends up tying his sister to a tree and assaulting her, which was just weird. And then she wants to forgive him, but she's hallucinating and he's a bad guy. There's a lot of hallucinating and a lot of like, I'm in another dimension. So that just explains why you can't see everything that's happening. So at one point, the guy who was the creepy old guy, or not, he's not that old, Creepy.
He's probably your
my
age.
Yeah.
Now that we get older, not that old anymore.
Nope.
Maybe I'm in another portal right now. Am I the old guy?
You are.
Oh my gosh, this movie was great. It took me places. So he shows back up, and he's really. It makes it sound like almost like there are these gangs that are going out and portal hopping because there's like monsters in the different portals, and he's trying to explain it, which the narrative that he explains sounds, oh, this is going to be kind of interesting. And then this rival portal hopping gang shows up, and they're all in like makeup, and I'm like, this movie's about to get good, except they don't really do anything with any of those people or explain why they're in makeup or why they're a gang. So, yeah.
Blah.
And then the sister has to make this choice. The guy's like, you can either save your sister. I know where your sister is. Or your brother, because her brother is there, and her brother is like in this other dimension, and she can see him, but he can't. Whatever, and her brother is literally right there, and the sister has made him come out unbeknownst to him to do this whole thing without all of the information. She could just like save her brother real easy, but she's like, nah, he'll be okay. For the long time it's going to take me to go and find my sister, where this guy who's already given her bad information says we have to go this far distance away. So if you choose your sister, you can't save your brother.
Mike.
I know.
It's a lot.
So it was a lot. So she finds her sister, and her sister's like, I can't take this. And she's like, the monsters are going to be mad at me. So she kills herself. The sister kills herself right in front of her.
They just did all of this.
They did all of that. Zoink Scoob.
Appreciate the efforts.
Yeah. And so she's like, okay, well, then I better hurry up and go back and save my brother. And she sees her brother, but her brother's already a bad person, and so her brother kills her and then kills himself. So everybody ends up dead, and I don't understand any of it.
I'm very glad to know cocaine is alive and well in Hollywood. that somebody out there just railed up and wrote something.
They really did.
Stephen King style, like
They
just
did.
woke up, there was a script on the desk covered in blood. They're just
Yeah.
like, well, it's called Axiom.
Like, I'm going away. Don't try to find me.
That's
really-
very good.
Okay, the rest of the show.
Yeah. Oh, no. I don't have that kind of energy.
It
Yeah.
feels
All
like there's like 10 different concepts on top of each other.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
There are. I really liked if they would have stuck with like the whole gangs hopping portals. 'Cause, I thought that
like
was a
the
good idea.
interdimensional gang that
Yeah.
just like kills you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they kind of did that on Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, the TV series they did for AMC with The Hobbit.
Martin Freeman.
Not Martin Freeman.
No.
The other one. Elijah Wood.
Elijah Wood.
I never saw that.
It is a fantastic show. I think there's 2 or 3 seasons, but it's like kind of these elements only
Right.
done correctly.
Well, I think maybe they bit off more than they could chew, and they ended up having to cut out a lot because there is a good story in here. It's just not told. So there's so many plot holes. It just I couldn't follow a narrative all the way through.
I
and that
am
made it
going to
unfun.
pitch something that would have been more amazingly interesting.
Okay.
So I kind of like the idea that there are these portals.
Yes.
So imagine there is a gang that hates you so much that they want to kill you across every single timeline.
It's like the Warriors.
Yes, exactly.
Except interdimensional.
Yeah, interdimensional warriors. Like, I think that is like way more interesting of a
Yes.
premise. Is like I hate you so much, I don't want you to exist in any timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's about you finding out that there's more timelines and trying to
infinite.
save, trying to save your
Trying to get to the Coney Island on Game
Right.
of 7.
Well,
Yes.
it's funny that you said that because they hit the Scooby-Doo thing, which I'm into, so I should have liked it and didn't. And then when the gang shows up and they've got like the painted faces, I'm like, oh, we're going into Warriors territory. There's going to be all these interdimensional gangs, and this is where we're going. And then they just leave that plot line. Oh, it would have been awesome. but-
Interdimensional Gangs of New York.
Interdimensional gangs of New York.
They ran out of cocaine.
Cocaine.
Beta Butcher Bill.
Yes.
He's
So
from Betazoid.
yeah.
on a scale of 1 to 5 jinkies. How many jinkies do you
I'm gonna give it a Zoink Scoob. I'm gonna give it 1 Scooby snack. I'll give it 1.5 Scooby snacks. It looks pretty. It's
You're so kind.
It's a good. They created a good world. They just needed to have a story that got me from point A to
The
point
one
B.
element nobody ever cribs from Scooby-Doo in one of these live-action movies, which they really should, is the giant Dagwood sandwich that Scooby and Shag
Yeah.
always make. I'd love to see that made in real life and consumed by a live actor. That's all.
very weird fetish, but I'm not going to kink shame you.
I just want
I
a
love you.
slow shot, almost like the Andy Warhol eating a Burger King burger. I want that for 90 minutes.
I don't like a tall sandwich.
Oh,
I
too
know
much.
you don't. I love a tall sandwich.
it's making.
Weird.
I just
Dave,
saw,
your thoughts on tall sandwiches, your hot takes?
Well, when you said that, I was flashing back to V when they like dislocated their jaw
Yeah.
to like swallow things, and I was like, "Oh, that never looks good."
It looks painful.
But I do want a tall sandwich right now. You just made me hungry.
Like I love a double decker that's like, not ridiculous. No, it's cartoon big.
right.
Or like in Back to School when Rodney Dangerfield hollows out that bread and just puts all that shit in it.
Right.
And he's just like,
That's the problem with those big sandwiches is too
Yeah.
much bread. I'd rather it be stacks of meat. And a little
Dangerfield
bit.
knew how to do it.
Yeah.
That's probably why he's dead.
Now,
Might
Jacob,
be.
I'm not trying to tell you how to run Lonely Pine, but maybe
tall
new
sandwich?
Yeah, tall sandwich.
With hollowed out
sandwich.
bread.
The tall sandwich.
Cartoon
I won't order
realistic sandwich.
I won't
think,
do
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I
The
can't.
tall pine sandwich.
tall pine sandwich.
Oh.
Oh.
I always wanted to do like an eating challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah. So I think that's what needs to go on the menu is some sort of eating challenge sandwich.
Do those ever end well?
I mean,
Joey Chestnut's
yeah,
doing okay.
Exactly, yeah.
Usually for
He's
the
making
owner of the
money.
restaurant, they do.
Yeah. Okay.
Somebody
For
leaves with a
Nathan's.
$70 sandwich they have to pay for because they couldn't finish it.
Yep.
I
Somebody's always a winner.
Every time I think that Stand By Me, the pie
pie
eating is just always engraved in my mind when I think of eating challenges. I'm
Start
like,
puking on each other.
boom, bob.
All right, well, I'm going to move us on. I have a movie gun. It has a movie bullet in it. I'm going to shoot somebody. You guys are safe because you're guests, and we don't shoot our guests with movie
nice.
bullets.
Yeah.
We're gonna shoot someone that's not here. It's a phantom bullet.
Yeah, right.
Phantom.
It's going to go through a portal and hit them.
It's the portal
Maybe.
All right.
Maybe.
What is happening? I had the page open, and now it's not open, Freddy.
What do you mean, Paige? You mean the gun?
Yeah.
You mean
I
your gun?
meant
Your
that
gun misfired?
the whole time.
Just
this
dropped
is-
all the bullets
God damn
on
it.
the floor.
Okay. I
There's
figured
one
it out.
bullet,
I found the
yes.
gun. Everything's fine.
Thank
Found
God.
it.
The gun page.
We found it.
Andy's up first. He's not even here. He's probably relaxing somewhere, but
He's
he lived.
about to get shot. That's how it happens.
He lived. Don't worry. He lived. You can't hear it, but he lived. I thought I had it set up, but I guess I don't.
That's okay. You got to put. They don't need to know that.
Freddie,
The magic of post production.
you live. Oh, God.
Uh-oh, Amy.
Whoa, we all
You're
held
about
our
to watch
breaths.
me die before your eyes.
Oh no.
Dead. All right. And I picked this dumb movie and I don't want to watch it. It's called Dry Blood. It's also on Amazon Prime, which I feel like is the best place for your straight-to-video garbage horror right now. It's a reclusive drug addict.
A drug dick.
I'm sorry, what? Did I? I can read.
drug dick.
A reclusive drug addict is terrorized by ghosts, a sheriff, and his hallucinations while trying to uncover a murder mystery.
Why is he trying to take that on?
I don't know.
One of those,
Like
That's just
again,
silly.
You should
I'm
be
in
worried about
recovery.
one thing.
Yeah.
Well, you know how they say try to
Drugs.
lose yourself in someone else's problems and you'll feel better about your own.
One step at a time.
1
or a
hour and
bunch.
24 minutes, so
Somebody-
I'm mad about that.
You ever have your life coach be like, you're like, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. They're like, why don't you try to uncover a murder mystery?
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things like you feel better by helping other people.
Yeah.
You just took it to like
you up.
way too much of an extreme.
That sounds pretty low stakes. Murder mystery, sure.
All right. Well,
It's a great poster, though.
I'm gonna. Oh yes.
It's like a headless ghost. Child.
Maybe we have something good on our hands. We'll see.
Maybe.
It's spooky. She's
Blood
got
on your
a
hands,
chest
Amy.
of drawers.
All right, we're gonna move on to the main attraction. I See You Shiver with anticipation.
This week's main attraction is 1975.
Patient.
Patient. The Rocky Horror Picture Show, the film adaptation of the musical that took London by storm, I suppose.
By Corset.
By Corset. Jim Sharman directing, the original play and score and all that written by Richard O'Brien. This one's a whole heck of a lot of fun and a cult classic.
I think what I would like to do, if I could direct this portion of the show, because I think that this movie is a rite of passage. Certainly for our generation, it's like something you saw when you were a kid, I think. So I would like to go around the room and talk to everybody about their first times and kind of how it made you feel. Nice. I'll go first just because I'm an asshole like that. Okay. I actually was just talking about this with my mom yesterday. She had a friend who her family owned a campground in like Nowheresville, Virginia, close to the West Virginia border. And we used to go there all the time in the summer. And she had 2 sons, like one was older than me, and I think one was younger than me. They've since both passed away, which is very sad. But anyway, my mom and her friend Jan went out on the town that night. And so I was being babysat. And I was probably 11, 12 years old by the 2 kids, and they're like, we're gonna watch Rocky Horror, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And I watch it, and it felt so dangerous and just so like perverted, and I felt like, oh, should I even be watching this? And it just really like blew my mind, and I fell in love. That's my story. I don't know who would like to go.
I was 10 years old. I thought I was watching porn.
Yeah, right?
Like, no, like it was, we talked about Elvira, Sexual Awakening. Rocky Horror is up there with like Sexual Awakening. I remember being like a kid and not knowing that Tim Curry was Tim Curry. Like, who's this on the screen? Probably tells you a lot about my sexuality now. Like, I'm not so much about the label. I like the wine. You know, like So I think for me it was kind of one of those things like 10 years old, not really understanding what I'm watching, knowing that the time warp was the jam, was like the jam of all jams. And knowing that there was kind of a interactive element to it. I think after, I'm not sure which order this happened, whether I saw it first or saw this, but I think around the same time was there were no Harry Potter books.
None.
Like this is
pre-release.
J.K.
Rowling was still in a failing marriage.
Exactly. VH1, which used to be a channel. Yep. I'm not sure if it still is.
Is it? Oh yeah, because Drag Race is on it.
Yeah, did like a documentary. Like behind the music style about
I think I saw that
Rocky Horror, and I think that was my introduction. And they had all the cast and basically talking about the history of where all this stuff came from, and then I think right after the documentary, like showing it. And for me, it was kind of one of those things that was always in the background of the rest of my life. And then I remember one Halloween deciding that we were going to we're going to show Rocky Horror in my apartment. And I invited all these people over essentially to trash my apartment. Like we did the rice, we did the toilet paper.
Oh my God.
So this might have
water,
been, this could have been an origin story for you in a little ways, huh?
I think a little bit. I think there were a few other like interactive elements that we were doing before that, but I just remember us getting like just wasted off of our asses and yelling at the television. And I think it's one of those immersive films that watching it at home is great. Watching it in a theater with, a shadow cast is amazing. To me, like the shadow cast thing kind of goes back and forth. It's one of those things where if you're in on the joke, it's great. I remember taking my wife to see it, and she had never seen it with the shadow cast. And there's so much yelling that she's like, I don't know what the fuck is going on here.
You have to know the movie well before you do that.
I keep thinking of that story about the Star Wars game at Disney Springs that you're like, she's just standing there and didn't know what to do.
Yes, pretty much.
My origin with this movie is very different, actually. I didn't discover it until I was in college. And it was one of those. Yeah, I knew of it. And I knew, the cast and what other things they had done. And then I had a friend that found out I had not seen this yet in college and was like, we have to correct that. And actually threw kind of like a loose party for it, watched it at her room. And the one thing is like, I think I came to it just slightly too late for it to really affect me. But the thing I absolutely loved, because I knew the Esquire still hosted every, like Saturdays, midnight showings and stuff, was watching people watch this movie, and like I was like, I don't know this movie yet, but I love sitting in a room with people that love this movie and how much fun it is to actually like have that experience. I think if you do love movies, you should go watch it in a theater with people that do shadow cast and stuff, because that is an amazing experience.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I think a lot of the jokes, like, especially depending on the cast that you see, it's a lot of improv too. Like, it's a lot of like, some of the callbacks stay the same, but I know that each troupe kind of has their own callbacks for different things that happen. And the one here, the Denton Affair, they have like a callback for like almost every other line of that movie. So again, it's kind of one of those things.
So
like,
you better know the movie.
Well, and there are
or
like,
you're gonna be like,
but I think if you look across like pop culture-dom, you know, the people at the Denton Affair, other than myself, which I've always been like a guest, you know, performer with them, they've been gracious enough to let me come and perform, is, you know, that is their Saturday night. Like, that is like, they don't get paid. They like show up. They just love it that much. And I don't know anything across pop culture-dom that has that kind of commitment. Like, you know, I think everyone is like down to show up for a Star Wars every 3 years, but you know, like at the point that you're showing up every Saturday night at midnight to dress up and yell, and you know, that shows the power of that movie.
Well, I think this movie also feels like the thing that originated that type of like going in and having an immersive experience. You mentioned Star
talking
Wars.
back.
Yep, I remember like when Star Wars, when it came out with the re-releases and people dressing up for it. I think like Tu Wong Fu does it now as well. They'll have showings, and I know Buffy, Dr. Horrible, that sing-along blog has that experience as well. But it all goes back to Rocky Horror for that experience.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, Mike, you
so my the summer has been like 93, 94. I was just going into high school, and so I was a band guy, band nerd, and I remember like just starting moving from middle school to high school, and like the people that were the band in the high school, that was like everybody looks up to those guys in high school. They're like, we all go to the Rocky Horror Picture Show on Saturday night. So we went, and it was the first time I did underage drinking. It was the first other underage stuff too. But I went.
Is there an age for that?
Underage drinking?
No, the other stuff? Underage stuff?
as long as all the parties involved are underage, you don't have to worry about it.
You don't have to worry about it. But it was crazy because I hadn't seen the movie. I hadn't seen like any of that. The only thing I really knew about it is my dad hated the film because he got the Catholic Times, and the Catholic Times, and I think it's still in there to this day as like movies you shouldn't see. Is the Rocky Horror Picture Show stays in there. So that was the only thing I really knew going into this movie, that it was supposed to be a bad thing. But like I went, and like part of tradition, I guess, where I grew up in Columbus, so I saw, I think, Upper Arlington, somewhere in that area, and probably still playing it. But they if you go in, they ask you if it's the first time you've seen, or this is the first time you've seen it. So you are a virgin. And so I remember just like as a little 8th grader wanting to just like, you know, hide and just watch and observe. But like this community of people like pulling me up on stage to, you know, oh, you're Rocky Horror virgins. And it was just like a really cool, warm reception into like, you know, like the freaks and that I would end up becoming, you know, that the community that I'd end up being a part of like these people who were really the outcasts that, just looking from the outside, I was kind of scared of it first, but then really realizing that I was like, we don't care who you are or what you do or what you want to do. We just want you to have fun. And that really just became kind of imprinted on me. And I remember like wanting to go back every single weekend. And I actually had a little thing for there was the live action Meatloaf that was in the it was the bad boy, you know. It was pretty awesome. So
blow that saxophone like that.
Nobody's business. Man, he could ride that hog. So yeah, I actually, and I think about this from time to time. I actually wrote a poem about that person.
Ode to a Meatloaf?
Yeah, my 8th grade mind's so embarrassing.
Oh my god!
Can you give us like a little, like one line? Everyone knows like one line.
I can't. I can't. I've revealed too much already. So
you romantic little boy.
I know. I was.
Your breath like breadcrumbs and ground beef. Your sauce so tomatoey.
It had something to do with his leather, but yes.
He wears it in any weather.
It was.
It rhymes.
It was. So anyhow, yeah, it
And
was.
you want to be together.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was a big. That was
You
a big
wanted to
thing
be
for
his
me.
paradise by the dashboard light.
Yes. So it was. Yeah, that was a pretty meaningful, and actually really ended up being part of like the community that I ended up finding. You know, that the theater nerds, the music, all that stuff that like gets you through high school, gets you through those hardest years. You know,
I think when I talked to a lot of the Rocky cast, and one of them described it very well, is as a gateway drug. Like you especially depending on like when you see it, like especially in that young era, like the people that watched Rocky and identify with Rocky like at a younger age, like we're going to be like, you know, amazing people. And you knew that there was going to be that connection there, that there was going to be threads that you could pull on each other.
Yeah.
Maybe other things you could pull on each other.
right? Walk to a different drum.
Yes, but you like it's one of those like I don't want to call it a dog whistle because that has such a negative connotation.
I know,
but
you
like
mean,
it's like a
siren call.
A siren call.
It's a shortcut.
It really
Yeah.
is. I remember because it's funny. I had like a 1977 Honda Civic hatchback, and I'd left the lights on. So after the movie is over, and like this whole new world of like, oh, there are other people like me that or this. I go out to my car with my friends, and my lights are on, and my car is dead. And so this group of drag queens, there's like 3 of them. Yes. Like one of them comes out to the car, and she's like, I'm like totally just trying to just figure out, what in the world is going on. And she's like, honey, there is a lot here to absorb. I know. Let's get your car started and get you back on the road. And I'm like,
were they under the hood? Because I love the idea of 3 drag queens under the hood of a 1977 Honda.
I just imagine it is John Leguizamo and Wesley Snipes.
I've had those
Swayze,
moments
like showing up
in my life, but like literally like kind of the fairy princess, tapping you on the shoulder and like it's all gonna be okay. Just take all this in. This is life, and it's a beautiful thing.
You've been that for other people too.
I've tried my best. I try
my
my best. So
yeah. For me, the first time with Rocky Horror is tied in with a lot of other things, in particular Dungeons and Dragons. Like I was about that age. I was again like middle school probably, and I had a friend whose dad had recently been released from prison, and he had while he was in jail, he had all those like bootleg rules for Dungeons and Dragons, but also he brought in all these because he was coming home.
Yeah.
He was not a great guy. He was an abusive guy, but he did bring some good things into our lives because when he came home, he had things that he wanted us to experience with him, which was Dungeons and Dragons. He taught us how to play that, but then he also was a fan of this movie. So we watched it, not in the way like as a big community thing, but just like
just put it on in the
a couple of kids watching it on the TV,
Yeah.
So I didn't think of it as this communal experience until a lot later, but I was introduced to that, and I associate it with like Highlander and A Clockwork Orange. Those are all things that I kind of absorbed within probably the same weekend of having a couple of overnights at their house. So it's just like one of a number of mind-blowing things that happened to me in rapid succession.
Yeah.
Because up until then, it was like Rocky Balboa, not Rocky Horror.
Right.
And then it was Rocky Horror, and I'm like, oh, movies can be so different.
Right.
So I'll be the one to kind of pull on this, and if it's too much of a Pandora's box, we can just immediately shut the lid. But because we have a comedian here, I feel like this is a good time to like
let's open this axiom.
Yeah, let's open this axiom. We have gotten criticized at Video Archive for showing Rocky Horror, as it is now a problematic film. For one, like they use terms that you're not supposed to use anymore, especially in the LGBTQ community, as well as some of the callbacks using the F word that is not fuck. And to me, it's kind of one of those things where I kind of view it as so many of my LGBTQ friends, again, found this as a gateway to a community. So I guess kind of one of the things is in some of these other horror films that we watch, they don't age very well. How do you guys kind of relate? And especially I want to kind of hear from Dave in terms of comedy, because this is pretty much like Rocky Horror is a comedy horror. It's not meant to be taken seriously at all.
Goodness, no.
Like, how do you see us kind of like processing stuff as we navigate this world that how do you take something from 1970 or kind of keep, I don't know where
that's
I don't know where
a great question
period.
because times are changing, and I think the important thing that's happening right now that I absolutely love is we are seeing more people of color and from different marginalized communities in the room now, and we need their voice and we need their representation. I think with things that are older is we have to kind of see them through the lens of their time. And one thing I would say is what we were just talking about with this movie specifically, Rocky Horror, was people finding that are in a marginalized community, finding their friends and their community, and actually that was their path. And so in a way, it was a movie back then that was about inclusion and bringing people in. Does it age well with terms? No, not whatsoever, I think at times. I think it still has a place for where it was and is still very important. And I think being aware that like maybe some people will react differently now, I don't think it loses its strength, but I think we just become aware of that. I also don't think we take away what it has been and how much it means to people.
Yeah, like things can contain multitudes. There can be a problematic issue, but I think the balance of this movie and what it is and has been wins. That doesn't mean everybody has to love it and watch it, but I refuse. You can't cancel it. I won't let them.
Yeah,
it's too beautiful.
There's something really special about the movie, and not to mention like there's something to be said for having a shorthand within your own community that may be offensive to people outside of it. Like honestly, like if you are part of, like a good example is when Bill Cosby, who turned out to be obviously a monster, used to like attack his own community, the black community, for speaking a certain way. He'd be like, "That makes you sound ignorant," whatever. But they were like, "No, this is ours. Like, don't try to take our own culture away from us." So when I hear like drag queens calling each other, forgive me for saying it, the T word. When I hear, I'm like, well, I'm like, go for it. You're having a good time. Like, I get why maybe you want to do that, to have that familiarity with one another. You know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, I do get like, if a bunch of guys in a pickup truck, with a Confederate flag are yelling at somebody, it's a completely different experience than
find your context.
Right. I think we are blinding ourselves to context way too frequently. We're not allowing ourselves to see any nuance in anything anymore.
Right. Context is important. It was interesting. I was actually driving. I was in an Uber, leaving one of your bars, Video Archive, with a group of guys, and one of the guys turned around. So our Uber driver was having a good conversation with him because he was a Disney fan, and so had a lot to talk about, but he was talking about his family or whatever. And one of the person that was in the front said, "Hey, F words, we passed the bar we're going to next." And everybody lost their shit. Because it's like, this is not, there's someone in this car that's not a part of the community where you're, and kind of browbeat him, and he apologized, and it was no big deal, and moved on. But like, had it that person that was the Uber driver, maybe even been included in that group.
Oh, one star right away.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that it's and the Uber driver was really cool about it. He was actually very nice, and he could tell, there were some Disney fans.
He's like, "Oh, I get permission now."
Yeah.
Cool.
So
I heard you guys.
The classic
as we left the car.
excuse.
Yeah. He was like, "See you later, F words." No. He did. He was a really sweet guy. But it's interesting because I just think that the context of it, because I also think there is power for those communities, when you're in a community and there's a word that's become grotesque, to use that as a way of taking some of that power away in a different way, in a way that, like, this is a thing that we all share. We've all been called this, and like, let's take it away, the power, because when maybe you've been called it before, where it's left some scars on you, and now we're using it in a way to say, like, me and you were not so different. you and I were not so different. So we use that. So I think
Right.
you're absolutely right. It's all about context.
Right.
And when you look at this movie, like in the context of it, it's like like you said, don't dream it, be it. It's like telling you it's all okay.
Well, also you should think about, like, I've overheard, even leaving my workplace in the parking lot, walking to my car, I've heard two older people having a conversation who would never use the F word
Right.
ever.
Yeah.
Because it's a bad word.
Yeah.
But they don't think of it as a bad word for the reason that you do.
Right.
But they're having this conversation where they're like, that's just unnatural. I can overhear them talking about gay marriage.
Yeah.
And they're just talking about how unnatural it is and, against God. That is bald-faced. That should be the thing you're really worried about. Or
Right.
the thinking
Right.
behind it
Right.
is so much more important than the words.
It is.
And I feel like Rocky Horror, to bring it back to Rocky Horror, this is something that celebrates individuality and breaking away from your programming.
Right.
So, like, in a way, like, our interpretation of language is part of our programming, right? In this movie, the character of Frankenfurter is taking these two straight-laced squares, Brad and Janet, and they're the weirdos. Everybody else is being themselves. You know what I mean? Like, and they're not allowing themselves to obey other people's programming.
Right. Yeah. Well,
But there are some consent issues.
there are some,
Absolutely. And then there is two rapes.
and there's certainly a lot of unfortunate slut shaming for poor Janet. But
Yeah.
Oh, poor Janet.
poor Janet, poor
Janet.
Janet. But that's also an interesting thing too, as you say in that opening up Pandora's box, is that there's a part of this movie that's still a living, breathing thing, because those callbacks, you have the right to say things or not say things or do things. There's not necessarily a script. That's what it's supposed to be about, is like this whole living, breathing thing. And so there is some responsibility there as you're bringing up new, 8th graders who are seeing this movie for the first time. Maybe too early to see that. No, whatever.
No,
It's
we all
the
talked
right
about
time.
seeing it at
that's
10 years
when-
old.
Right time
Yeah.
to see it. It's
Yeah.
the right time to see it. Whatever. When you're
It was
talking about
something.
some, like, people trying to find out, like, there is some responsibility in those callbacks to just be like, hey, this is this movie was in '78, but like we're here now. Maybe things like calling Janet a slut. Maybe there's a little bit. I don't know. Maybe there's a little education that you can have in there too. Because
Well, I think there's a chance for conversation.
Yes.
Because if someone is offended by it, then why? And they're allowed to be. They're
Right.
allowed to have those feelings. But then let's talk about that. Why? Why does someone take power from it? And then why is someone hurt by it? And yes, there are scenes that do not age well. Let's talk about that and what's the progress that we can then move on from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very
absolutely.
simple. I don't want to throw anything away. There's a few people I want to throw away. Donald Trump. But kick him in the face, throw him away. I didn't say that. But
That's how we can celebrate our Pride year
Oh my
and next
fuck, yeah.
election.
Oh,
by
Jesus.
Getting him out.
just by knocking all the teeth out of his mouth.
2020 Pride Year.
gum a
Starting the campaign now. 2020 Pride Year.
I don't
Sorry,
want. Yes.
sorry,
No. You're damn Skippy.
Don't you think it's funny though that like this movie is in the Catholic Times
Yeah.
because it offended these super conservative people? And now it's probably in the liberal times because it has offended these super liberal people. So like it's so funny that you are not allowed to look on this as any type of entertainment without a grain of salt.
Right.
But all that is
Must
based
everything
upon,
be political?
Well, and
but this movie is very political.
It is, and
Yeah.
you look at it,
Yeah.
so like really funny to me. Like, and when I was a kid, and I was hearing, "Oh, this movie is bad,"
Right.
because the Catholic Times says it's a bad movie, and you're like, "Oh, we found out some things from 1978 to now about the Catholic."
Yeah.
Organization
So fuck off.
that are going on. So it's real easy to, as we learn in this movie, it's real easy to point fingers and put labels on things.
Right.
But be careful because those fingers can start coming right back at you.
Oh.
Or in you.
Oh.
Look at the
Well,
pot
depending
that
on what-
Jacob stirred.
Yeah,
You
it's
son
good.
of a
It's good stuff. though. This is like what makes these movies so great.
I don't
Yeah.
think you can have a conversation about Rocky Horror without talking about it.
Right.
Especially today. Like I think it's kind of one of those things where you can talk about the music and the legacy of Tim Curry being amazing.
God, he's
but,
great.
But you really can't talk about it without saying like, what is it? What did it mean then? Because it was
Right.
a very, controversial movie then, and what it means now. Because I think that's probably what makes it really good art.
Right. Because it was a
It's-
rallying cry.
I don't even
in a
know if
lot
it was
of
a
ways.
rallying cry. Again, I think it's just one of those things that the people that get it. I think
Yeah.
it's a lot kind of like John Waters films. Like
Right.
either you get them or you don't. Like, and it's
Yeah.
not free. If you don't get it, it's not for you. Like, I think we get kind of painted into a picture of like, why don't you do this at the bars, or why don't you do this at the restaurant? And to me, I'm like, because it doesn't have to be for everybody. Like,
Right.
you have to find your audience, and like I think
I
that's
didn't make him for you.
You know what?
love
But I
that
think
that
that's-
kind of sums it up.
But I think that's okay. Yeah, that film is not for everyone.
Right.
It's the callbacks, the shouting.
Yeah.
Like the people that get it, and it strikes them on a level that is like that will stay with them forever. And then so much respect for the cast that shows up every week and the audience that shows up every week. That shows like the staying power that Esquire has been doing it now for, I think Dead and Affair is one of the longest running Rocky Horror companies in the country.
Wow.
And they keep going because of the people that find it and then the new generation that finds it. Because when you go to see the Shadowcast, it's not people in their 50s and 60s up there dancing around. It is kids in their early 20s that have found the movie and fell in love with it and wanted to be a part of it. And I think
have
that's
the
probably
stamina to be up that late.
well, I think it's the same thing for improv too. Like you have to kind of keep feeding the beast.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I think there's also, we usually discover this movie when we're teenagers. When you're a teenager, your body starts changing. You start to feel like a freak. And the fact that you see what people consider to be freaks just be freaks unapologetically on the screen, what is empowering. And I think that's what and I think that's why this movie will keep going on for generations, and why new generations like, oh, I'm okay. That's okay. I'm okay to be what I am, and I think that is very strong. And like someone like Barry Bostwick, when he was talking about making this movie, because I think I saw the same documentary that you saw, Jacob, is he's like, yes, I'm the square, but then like this movie was very lonely for me because everyone else was having a great time, and they kind of marginalized me. Like I was like, oh, but no, I'm fun too.
Well,
I'm fun.
The actress who plays Magenta was on the commentary. She was saying like there's the scene where they have the Transylvanians rehearsing the dance number, and she uses the term, she says they are all freaks, and what she meant was they're all physically irregular in some way or another. But she said they didn't have them in the live version of the show. So when they did the movie, this was something she didn't know they were doing. And she came into the room when they were rehearsing the time warp, and she said she almost passed out from the shocking look of all these different people together, and it was just so bizarre she couldn't reconcile.
I don't know. I wake up and I look in the mirror every day, and I'm shocked by that. So I just
Must be rough.
yeah.
But then she said something that made, because it sounds pretty horrible the way she says it like that, where you're like, oh, okay. But then she also says Susan Sarandon was in with them, and so was
Barry Bostwick.
Barry Bostwick. And she goes, they looked as odd as everyone else. Like, because the base of comparison had been stripped away when they were all lined up together, it was like her mind couldn't say these people are traditionally good looking or normal
Normies.
looking, and this person isn't. She said when she watched them rehearsing, like it all came around where they all look like freaks to her.
We're all freaks.
Yeah.
And I think, that's what I meant by like rallying cry, not that it was intended as one, but it was a byproduct, kind of like with Night of the Living Dead, he didn't really intend to make a racial statement, but it kind of happened. I think with this, like it shows those people that go back every week to it helped them through something.
Yeah.
Which is really saying a lot for a movie.
It is.
I think
and I would imagine, that people who are doing that on a weekly basis realize that what they're doing is so essential for community for freaks, because they're creating a home base. I mean, they're creating a place where like you can go, like you might have to do your 9 to 5 work day or your school day or whatever, but if I on Saturday night I can go and I can just be.
You can hot
becomes your
patootie.
social
You can hot patootie and bless your soul.
Dave teaches improv classes. So if you want to take an improv class, look for OTR Improv classes taught by Dave. But it's kind of one of those things too that, especially in our culture right now, you can love something and the community may not accept you. Like the community, especially your thoughts on it. Like, I love Last Jedi, and people jump down my throat in the Star Wars community about like, how can you love this? And I think it's very refreshing. And I can only think of the improv community as having that kind of like, yeah, come on in, jump in the pool. Like, and I don't know a lot of other fandoms that are one open to virgins, like people that are just like, you've never done this before, like come on in, like it's great. And two, just like again have that sort of community base. Like,
well, yeah, it's like finding your pack of bees for the one blend was it lemon melon video. Finding your own bee, finding your group. I think you're right though. Like, I also hate when people, like, if they're in the fandom and they disagree with you, like, you can't just disagree. Like, you're wrong or right.
About art.
Exactly, yeah.
Come on.
And, yeah, like, I think Star Wars is that for a lot of people. Improv is definitely that. Like, it definitely becomes your social group. As Tina Fey puts it, it became her cult, but then she's like, yeah, but then my cult also gave me my husband and my career as well. What's your cult done for you? And I think finding your group, like, is I think the biggest thing from this movie, and not letting other people judge your group and being comfortable in it.
Yeah.
I feel that way about the listeners and the friends we've cultivated from doing this podcast for 13 years. And certainly, like, when you go to Horror Hound Weekend and you get to see a lot of those people that you don't get to see, I feel a lot of love and support from the tribe that's listening to this and interacting with us, and just knowing you're out there.
Right.
You
Makes
lift
it
me
real
up.
special.
You're the wind beneath my wings.
Don't ever let yourselves divide yourselves.
Right? Don't do it.
Yeah.
It's easy to do. It's one day somebody's going to be like, I like the TV version better, and it's all going to fall apart.
Who's
no one's ever said that.
No, God, no.
We haven't talked about the music at all, which is amazing.
Well, we need to.
We need to wrap up. But I just
What,
want to say it's a big gateway to a lot of other music too.
Yeah.
I think it's made me into a Meatloaf fan.
Oh, I despise musicals, and I love this, so it's very special in that way.
Yeah, some of the best. I think it's one of the best musicals ever written. Honestly,
Oh my gosh,
it's so different than everything else.
It's so kicky.
Yeah,
It's just kicky.
it's a great rock album in and of itself.
Has anybody ever seen like the actual play, like the Rocky Horror Picture Show play?
I saw the live version with Laverne Cox,
Yeah.
which was bad, and I love her, but good.
I know they used to do it locally a few years ago. I had a few friends
just
did it.
curious.
Yeah.
Falcon, I think, did it.
I think, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
the music is great though. You're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
I
and-
wear the album out.
yeah.
whose pick was this?
It was Jimmy B's.
That's right, Jimmy B, one of our patrons. Again, patreon.com/NOTLP if you want
Thanks,
to support
Jimmy
the show.
B.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah,
Jimmy
it was a
B.
good pick. And
Yeah.
Support
Great
the
pick.
Denton Affair at Esquire. Go see them. Keep the legacy of this movie alive.
Yeah.
And the way you keep the
Yeah.
legacy of this movie alive is keep going to that midnight double feature picture show.
you should see Jacob's lips right now.
Oh,
He just put some lipstick on.
They're
It was
so
weird.
red.
You've been waiting all time to do this, right? You were like,
All right, I'm going to sing the whole thing. We're going to start from the beginning.
We had such a fun recording of Kelley doing that song that people have asked for, and I cannot find
We
it
did?
anymore. Yeah.
Oh.
Horror movie survival camp.
Yes.
Wednesdays at the Overlook Lodge, 8 p.m. Come out, support David Powell, support everything he does.
We'll be there.
July 17th, also go to OTRimprov.com. We host comedy sports every Friday night at Memorial Hall, and we also have OTR Improv shows every Saturday night at Below Zero. This month in July, we're doing our duos tournament, the Double Double Trouble Trouble Tournament.
Yes.
I love double checks.
Yes.
Better
Better than the rest. I will remember that till I'm dead. And you just said that,
crackle,
and then
crunch.
it just.
Freddie's going to be by your deathbed and be like, please, just give me something to live by. Like a memory.
I love that. Double checks.
Some to live, bye.
Memorial Hall is a great space.
It is.
Love it, yep.
Yeah, if you want a chance to pick a main attraction for our next theme, go to notlp.com, scroll down till you see Dracula on the stamp, and sign up for our mailing list. And then we will randomly pick somebody next week or the
Do
week
we know what
after.
our next theme is?
No, but we'll figure that out after the
Okay,
show.
you'll know soon.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
Yeah.
So you can't know. If you knew.
I have a list. We'll talk about it when
those
we're done.
emails, by the way, I was a little late to the party, but Freddie's doing a really awesome job on those.
Oh,
those
once a
newsletters.
month.
Sign up.
Yeah.
There's great stuff in there. Good content.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I try to make the newsletter, which is like a once a month thing. It's tied around what's going on at the site, but it has a little extra in there.
Yeah,
I should write an essay about my feelings about Bones and Scotty and how incompetent they are compared to Beverly and Jordy. And I just need to have, because I'm watching the original series right now for the first time, and I'm just like, they can never do anything.
Take a trek with Amy.
Like, what the heck?
They rely on
So
Kirk
we'll talk
a lot.
about that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the comparisons. Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining us. We love you.
All right.
Thank you guys so much for being here. You're awesome.
It's always amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank
Horror
you,
Movie
you.
Survival Camp.
We got
Thank you as well as you.
You got your Beelzebub roll call ready?
I'll blop that in later.
You'll blop
Do you want me to do that right now?
You can do it real
All
quick.
right, we're going to do it real quick. We always say hi to our fucking shit.
Beelzebubs.
I can't fucking
Our fucking
say.
shit.
Fucking shit.
We always say hi to our
grown-up.
fucking shit.
I'm a grown up. Well, we have Jimmy B, of course. We've
Yeah.
Love you, Jimmy.
got Emily and Brannon,
Hey guys.
Jeremy Cassie.
Amy still has your shirts and your pins.
They're coming, all right. Jeremy Cassie, Gamora.
Aw.
We've got Mandi.
Uh-huh.
How's the score?
2-0.
Yep.
2-0.
U.S.?
U.S.
U.S.
Yes.
Local hero
That's the
Rose
final.
Lavelle.
Lady footy.
You're catching it
Yes.
hot right now.
Oh,
that
my
is the
God.
final.
Rose Lavelle, local girl.
Yeah?
Yep.
Got a
Really?
goal.
Give it up for Roosevelt.
Fuck yeah! We've got
Honorary Beelzebub. Beelzebub?
Jeff. We've got Amanda. Ernest. Tree and Alex. Brandon. Boone, who we just hung out with the other day and saw Midsummer.
Saw Midsummer, yeah.
Bill.
Hey, Bill.
We've got Blake. Mark. And finally, the lovely, beautiful Alise.
Thank you so much, guys.
Much.
Couldn't
All
do it
right.
without y'all.
Bye.
Frankenstein was wondering if he should go to bed when his old buddy Leatherface put on Dawn of the Dead. And Igor made the nachos in a severed human head, and they enjoy the movie with their friends. David Kessler walks the streets of London on four legs, while high above him Ellen Ripley finds some funny eggs. And Freddy laughs at Nancy in her nightmares as she begs to have just one more moment with her friends. In a world where evil isn't always just pretend, and it seems as though the darkness never ends. Give me lots of popcorn and some time that I can spend to watch some monster movies with my